Why are you not stacking beads every day for a few minutes here and there, 2 or 3 times a day? Just stop and stack some beads. Beads are so colorful, so fun, so deliciously exciting and tactile. Plus, beads come in so many shapes and patterns. You have round beads, square beads, oval beads, teardrop-shaped beads, crystal shapes, flat squares, twisted squares, faceted, cubes, heart shapes, butterfly shapes, weird barrel shapes, painted, transparent, translucent, crackle, melted glass flowers turned into cubes, stones sliced into slivers and then glued together on top of other stones and then cut and formed into 20-sided dice shapes. It's endless fun, endless excitement. You get to be like a kid again, playing with all these colorful toys, and you get to sell them and make money for it. Why are you not doing this on every lunch break, when you first wake up in the morning and you need something to get yourself stimulated, when you can't think, you have too much running through your head at night and you need to calm down and go to sleep? You should be stacking beads all throughout the day, because bead stacks can be earrings, bead stacks can be the side pieces for a necklace. Random bead stacks can become a bracelet. Two things to keep in mind. Regular copper-based, this is silver-plated, but it's still copper-based, round wire is usually the easiest for this, but you want to test your beads to see if they could take 18 or 20 gauge. 18 will be stronger, but if you make your loops tight enough, you can get away with either one. And 20 will fit in almost all beads. Some of the tiniest beads, you'll have trouble fitting them in the 18. So test your beads first to make sure that they fit the wire you're using. Secondly, you want to become an expert at loops. The easiest loop to do, you can do this up against the beads or with the wire plane, is to make a right angle. You always want to make a right angle to start, and then you want to roll the loop backwards from the direction of the right angle. You also want to make sure you have just the right amount. You can eyeball it, but the more you do it and the more you play with it, the more you'll just get used to it. I grab it on the very tip, but I also know my round nose pliers. I know exactly where I want to grab it at each moment. So right here, I'm grabbing it close to the tip, about 3/4 of the way down, and I'm rolling it backwards. Now I'm going to pause and reposition and roll it some more. And then I'm going to reposition and roll it the final amount. And you want to have this really nice, almost machine perfect loop. Press your beads as tight up against it as you can, and then you want your bead stack to be tight. If it vibrates a little or spins, that's good, but you don't want them to be sliding up and down because you have a lot of extra wire. That makes it look sloppy. So the second one, I'm going to hold this as tight as possible. I've cracked beads before because I push it too tight, and that's okay. You just, as long as you have more beads. But again, my right angle, cutting off just as much as I need. Is that the right amount? Hopefully. If it's not, I'll do it again. Or I'll cut off a little more and do it again. But I start to roll it, reposition, roll it some more, and then I get it right the way I want. Sometimes I'll adjust it like this. Sometimes I'll give it a good squeeze. This is hard with the round nose, so sometimes I'll grab it with the flat nose. Give it a nice good squeeze. Whoop, and you don't want to slip. I'm going to give it a nice squeeze to tuck it in. And the other thing is, do you want both your loops facing the same way? Usually you will. It looks neater. And then look at your whole stack. If your whole stack is like this, and you don't want it that way, I mean, maybe you might want it that way if it's the top of a bracelet or something, but most of the time you want it straight. So make sure it's straight. You might end up the first few times with something like this. You want to grab it, straighten it out from both ends, make sure the loops are facing the same way. Now sometimes you might want one of these loops to be facing a quarter turn different than the other, and that's because you might have a charm that faces a certain way at the bottom of this, and you might want the earring hook to work with you, so when it's in the person's ear, the charm will hang naturally flat coming out from their ear rather than rolling to look like that, so you can't really see it. You can also do fancy stacks. If you take quite a bit more wire And then make your 2 loops with a lot of wire left over on the sides. First do 2 right angle crimps to lock your place in so the beads don't fall off. Then just hold your round nose steady and wrap the wire around like this and just kind of roll it into place. Then you can lock it in place by giving it 1/2 180 twist. You can twist the loop or twist the wire, either way. Straighten out your stack a little bit. Now you have both these wires to play with. And again, you can hold your whole stack with just your round nose while you're doing this. You can do a simple wrap around diagonal, go in the crevice. And what you want to do is you want this wire to end up wrapping around this loop and ending, kind of tucking in the sharp end, and then this wire wrapping around this loop and ending. You can do it where this is just a single loop. We cut this, and this is the only wire doing the fanciness. Or you can have both wires doing the fanciness. And in this case, I'm not sure I gave myself enough wire, but you can have them come around like this and play a game where they make fancy swirls and designs and then wrap their way back up and get wrapped around that little loop. This one I didn't give myself enough room, so this one I'll just show you. Pretend I wrapped it neater than that. At the end you would wrap it around here. You only need to wrap it around once. And then find a place to tuck it. Give it a little cut if it's sticking out too much. And then just pinch it in where you can tuck it, where it's pressing up against the wire and it's not going to scratch anyone. But 1 loop single fancy wrap is a lot easier. I usually take the smaller bead, the side where the smaller bead is, make myself a simple little loop, press the bead tight against that loop, give myself a hard right angle here, hold it, wrap around, roll it till it's the size you want, and then just wrap around diagonal, and then in the crevice behind the stone, diagonal, in the crevice behind the stone, diagonal, in the crevice behind the stone, diagonal, and finally wrap it like one little loop scarf around that loop at the bottom. First few times you do this, it'll be hard to get your diagonals all straight and even. That's okay. It still looks good, even if the diagonals are all over the place. Sometimes it's better that way, because if you spin it, if it spins, see all my diagonals are on one side. So if your diagonals are all over the place, you'll see it from different angles as it spins, and that's cool too. So I'm just going to tuck in this little part, make sure it doesn't scratch, and go back and make sure both ends are even the way I want, and the whole entire bead wrap is a straight line. See, it's a little wonky. You want to straighten it out from every angle. And boom, there you have it. Go have fun stacking a ton of beads. Just put bead stacks all over your life, all over your table, in your drawers. Fill up little baggies with them. Use them whenever. Make all kinds of fun stuff. See you guys.